Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Sean. It's Sunday night, 5:54 p.m. I'm going to be jumping in the bath in about an hour, and I actually have a week vacation, so very happy about that. I don't have to go to work. So what we're going to don't have to go to work for a week, I mean. So what we're going to be doing today is the January Advice Forum Q&A. Also thought it would be very appropriate, being that I watched Dr. Jordan B. Peterson go live this morning, which was pretty cool, for him to do his January Q&A, which is actually where I got the idea from. But instead of taking questions, going live on my either Facebook page for the Death Church radio show or going live on YouTube or Instagram, I figured it would be interesting to go through a couple of different websites from, So the advice forums on here, on a couple of websites that I got pulled up here that were all uploaded today on the 13th of January. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is going to be an hour long, as I can and do the best job that I can. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So the first one here is I might lose my home and my car because of Donald Trump. So starting off with a political one here, I'm assuming. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read it and give, see if I can give some advice to this person. And if you're possibly in this situation too, for yourself. The government shutdown has left me working full-time, unpaid. I am currently searching for a new job to work until Donald Trump makes the government run again. I have no paycheck coming in, and I've missed 2 of my credit card payments. My card payment is overdue, and my car insurance company says if I miss another one, they will cancel my policy and I will be without a car or renter's insurance. I since have missed credit card payments and my card insurance payment. My credit score is up and my premiums will surely fly up next time my policy updates. I have a car lease payment coming up in 6 days and the government is open, but then I still won't have another paycheck ready to pay. I might lose my car if it happens twice. My landlord is very understanding, but I made an agreement to pay this month's next rent when I get my paycheck. I have around $215 in my savings, and I'm currently using that as gas, food, and diaper money. Excuse me. When the government is backed up, I will have to pay off my missed credit card payments and late fees with the next paycheck, my car renter's insurance and lease, rent plus utilities, and overdraft fees for when my car insurance tries to take out $176 out of my checking account when I had less than $100 in it. I have been talking to Chase, and they said if I'd only call before I missed the payment, they might have been able to reschedule the first one, but not the second. Yeah, that's the Chase Bank is it's not good. Anyways, in short, I think my life is ruined and I just want to cry. Does anyone have any advice, please? Edit or PSS. I guess I really should have had more in the savings, but the government shutdown isn't my fault. Sorry for complaining on the advice thread. I'm in a really bad place right now. Well, okay, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in this situation, and I do apologize. Feel free, you guys, that you're in this situation. I've been in a situation before myself, actually, where I worked for a job for 3 weeks without the first paycheck, where I got paid on the 4th week. And thankfully, my dad jumped in to help us, me and my brother, pay the rent at the time, because this was about 3 years ago. So this actually ties in, surprisingly, to what me and my mother were talking about earlier, because she just was going off about Donald Trump, being that I'm pretty sure she didn't really have an opinion about Donald Trump before, but once he took his presidency, and that's all my dad screams and yells about if he's not watching football, is Donald Trump and how much he hates him. So I'm just going to be completely blunt with this guy who wrote this. So I do feel bad that you're in this situation. You're not getting paid, but you're still working full time without a paycheck because the government is shut down currently. But the thing is that it's what I told my mom earlier. But you knew beforehand that there was a good percentage of a possibility that this was going to happen to you. So every time the government has a filibuster, you're still expected to work if you're in a government agency, but not get paid. This happened during Bush's administration. It happened during Obama's administration. This just happens when the president shuts down something. I'm not exactly sure how the filibuster works, but basically when Congress can't agree on something and then this stops, they shut down, and then you're not able to get paid. So the lesson here is to not work in the future for any government agencies. So let's just say if I was in your situation, I would continue working for free until the government opens back up and you can start getting paid again to pay off all these bills that you've had. But keep in mind, you put yourself and your family in this situation by putting, I believe there was something about a mortgage payment in this advice thing here, and that you have car payments and you're paying for something about diapers that you're also paying for a child. The thing is to be more careful next time, and once things get back on track and you're able to make your payments, to then start looking for another job, even if it's a job that you kind of already are doing right now, like the same type of job, but make sure it's a company that's like privately owned or just a regular company. So next time there's a filibuster, next time something like this happens with a president where the country gets shut down, the government gets shut down, you won't pay the penalties of working for basically volunteer status. So once that happens, just get out of the situation by not working for any government agency ever again. So you won't be put in that situation. So I know it seems mean. I apologize. And my mother was getting very upset about the things that I was saying. It's just, you have to understand that every story has it's got a left side and it's got a right side. It's got two parts of the coin. There's the heads and the tails. You have to look at all sides here. So that is what would solve the problem. So just get a different job. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay, so the next one here is, do wholesome virgin guys still exist? No robots or incels who have no choice. Yes. Yeah, I would actually say a lot of them. If you're looking for someone who's a guy who's a virgin, it depends on the age range. I mean, but where I would go if I was you is start going to like a non-denominational church, I don't know how old this person is, but let's just assume they're college age. You go to a college group, like the places that I used to go to, because there's a lot of different men and women there, and some of them are dating. Actually, I knew a guy in the last one I was a part of about, 3 or 4 years ago, that he met his girlfriend in the Tuesday night church group he was going to. So if you're looking, I'm assuming you're looking for someone who's morally upright, like a man who is not involuntarily celibate because of possible mental problems or something like that. What you talk about with the incels thing, or a guy who's just a jerk. But at the same time, you also have to keep in consideration of how you're acting at the same time, because just to be blunt again, even though I don't like to be blunt in my videos, I kind of just like to throw things up in the air and then you do with what you would like to do with it. I'm just going to be blunt again and say, from my personal experience, when I'm talking to someone a woman on a dating website, and the woman is telling me that she doesn't want to play any games or anything, and wants a guy who's legit and not someone who's came out of jail, or not looking for a man who is physically or verbally abusive. In my situation, that's happened actually several times over the last many years. They still were addicted to that. They still had soul ties connected to the guy that was abusive. Case in point, the last 2 women I've dated said that in their profiles of the no sex before marriage. Like, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want mind games, I don't want the guy to be, a jerk. But then they don't know what they want either. So, because I was being a gentleman and I was being nice, and to To be fair, with the last one, I just personally wasn't feeling a spark. But the one before that, I was being a gentleman, and that she literally told me after talking for about a month and a half that she couldn't get over her ex, even though he did things that were very, very questionable and what I would consider really mean and rude. Not going to get into details, but you have to also be willing to accept these things and not just say, okay, well, I want this guy, and then you get said guy who's a gentleman, but then you're kind of just abusing his emotions by, I guess I'll just put it like this. It's painful when you're a man trying to be a gentleman and trying to do the right thing, and then she doesn't accept you anyways. So because of the woman secretly wants those things that she's trying to run away from, it's like an addiction or something. So you need to just wrestle with this and mow this over with yourself in your own head. And, and then, I mean, even if you're not that person and you think you do have it all together, but you're tired of dating guys who are just jerks, or boys who shave, is what Pastor Driscoll calls them, and that I'm the one that's being wrong about this, then that's all, because that's also a huge possibility. And then I guess to answer the question, yes, they do exist, and I would suggest to go to a church, like specifically a charismatic, non-denominational, or a church that has Calvin theology and the teachings, but it's charismatic at the same time. So that's catered towards like millennials and people that think it's, like it's cool to go to church kind of thing. So that's what I suggest, to go to one of those college groups or high school groups or whatever your age is. So, okay, going to answer one more question. Got 3 minutes left before I have to turn this thing off to get back to this. Oh, this one's long. Okay. Let's just go to another short one here. Okay. How do you get over a breakup? Okay. Well, this one's actually going to require a really long answer. But it's okay. Okay, well, to put it in a nutshell here, really the only thing, I would actually suggest the channel that my brother watches that has actually helped me too. Who has Tony Robbins on the channel. It's called Charisma on Command on YouTube. And I would also suggest watching videos by also Pastor Mark Driscoll of the Trinity Mark Driscoll Ministries, I believe, or even John Piper. He used to be a pastor, but he's retired now. I would suggest a couple of those channels to look up to help you get over a breakup, because it can be very, very difficult. Being that I'm still currently in that process myself now, even though I haven't been in a relationship for about 2 years. The woman I was just talking about in the first story, it was kind of a big deal for her to tell me what she told me, and then kind of pick up. But anyways, to do this, I would suggest Charisma on Command first, because it has a whole bunch of videos on how to move on. Don't just wait around to stop thinking about her. Personally, what I would do is I would start praying about it every day, which is something I should actually go back to doing, because I haven't done it in a little while. Write out a prayer list and have one of these things is for God to help you get through the breakup. By whatever means it's going to happen. So you would do that, and also start new hobbies and start new things start new things of interest. So like that you would start something new, like take up, I don't know, bowling, take up playing flag football. I took up chess, even studying. Also, another thing I do is I studied the Bible and buy Christian study books offline to get a pen out and start marking them up, like as a hobby kind of thing, because I love to read and I love to study. So it sounds a bit strange, but and I love to read a lot of books. So I would suggest to start off with that, because that was one of the videos I watched on Charisma on Command. And also Tony Robbins has estate break videos of depression and getting over things like that. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, everybody, it's Pastor Sean. Welcome back. Okay, so the next one here is called I Don't Trust My Moody Capricorn Boyfriend. I believe referring to the zodiac sign. This one's going to be a little long, so just bear with me here. Okay. I've been in a relationship with a moody Capricorn for 4.5 years. Oh, it's a pretty long time. Okay. I moved in with him over a year ago, and then things started out just fine. Excuse me. Until his ex-wife texted me when I was out of town and told me he was sexting her while I was away. He apologized profusely and told me that he felt if I left his life, it would be the biggest loss ever. Most women would forgive and forget, but to this day, I still feel that there is something that he's keeping from me. Call it women's intuition. Well, 4 weeks ago, I went away for the weekend. I was supposed to start a new job the following Monday, and he called me that Saturday night wishing me good luck. I hadn't heard from him in 2 days except when he wanted to find out where I was. I screamed at him on the phone, and he was texting me all this mushy stuff telling me that when I was finished with the guy I met, he wanted to give me a call. See, this jealousy of his is an ongoing problem, but he's been divorced twice and I'm a widow. Every so often, if I'm at work early in the morning and he sees me taking a phone call, he wants to know who I'm talking to. Anyways, he used to text me every morning when he got to work before me. He would also call me when he was on his way home and ask if there was anything we needed. Excuse me. Now he has stopped all of this, and we are having sex, and he doesn't tell me that he loves me. He's snappy and rude, and I'm getting sick of it. I've asked him if something is wrong, and he says no. I ask him if he wants me to move on, and he says no. I ask him if he's met somebody else, and he says no, and that I'm the only one he loves. He's a Capricorn, and it has been said that they can be very moody people. He bought a $40,000 truck and has been having qualms about returning it to the dealer because he says he can't afford it. Yet he withdraws $200 twice a week out of his savings account. Deep down inside, I know he should have never moved in with him, and I'm growing closer to moving out. He has breathing difficulties and seems to be meaner lately. Do you think between his financial status and his health, this is impacting our relationship, or has he met somebody and he wants me to be the one to break it off so he doesn't have to feel guilty? I can't take much more. Could you give me some insight as to what I need to do? Okay. That's a lot to unpack there. So, sorry, I'll turn off the notification. So, what it sounds like there in that message is that he struggles with being I think he struggles with being a double-minded person. I don't necessarily believe in the zodiac signs being that it has it can bring demonic presence to you when you use it, that it's a medium for evil. So even though that some people find that it's almost 100% correct of the time, depending on the websites they use. So the whole Capricorn thing, I would just say to go ahead and just ignore that part. But just from his choices with his personality, it doesn't seem abrasive, but like just kind of, quick to like the whole $40,000 purchase of something he couldn't afford. It's like a quick, not like witty thing. I can't think of the word for it, but so it sounds like he's double-minded and that there is a possibility that he has found someone else or is possibly wanting to get back to his ex that he was sexting, and the ex was telling her that, the woman who wrote this letter here. So from what it sounds like is that he wants to move on, but he doesn't want to hurt your feelings. So it's kind of this weird limbo place of like just being comfortable with being stuck. And that's something that I need to work on myself. Not that I do it, but when I see people doing it, it really, really aggravates me because it reminds me of my parents' relationship of just being comfortably numb kind of thing. And you just live light. You just feel gray all the time. You don't feel either black or white about something. It's like you want something, but you won't just tell the person what it is that you want, or that you don't want to break their heart or anything like that. And I understand, I've been in that situation before. So how I would address the situation if I was this woman is I would say, okay, we're going to have a sit down and look, okay, what's going on with the situation because your mood has changed and obviously something's up because she said something about women's intuition. And I do believe in that where God puts that on, I don't know if it could be a DNA thing or maybe a prophecy thing or something that Jesus will put someone on that on someone when the person is not being like basically if the person's just messing up. So what I would say in that situation is we need to have an honest sit down talk, turn the TV off. The kids can't come in the room. Like we just need to have a one-on-one conversation. Tell them what's going on. Are you cheating on me? Is this happening? Is that happening? Like what's going on? And if he just is going to stonewall you and say, you know what? I know what something is going on here and you're not being truthful about it. I just don't know what it is. So until then, I'm going to go ahead and move out to just be, to just put your foot down. So if you're constantly and consistently getting frustrated with this person, and you think something's up and they're not talking about it, then I personally would just move out. And maybe just get a hotel like for the weekend or just the night or whatever. And then ask again after a day or a couple days, are you going to be willing to talk about this? And if the person says no or yes, depending, then say, you know what, I think we need to separate. And then separate by that person either moves out of the house or you move out of the house. And then you guys don't talk or text, call or anything like that for at least a couple months. That's how I would treat the situation. Even though it sounds really mean, that's how I personally would treat the situation. There's no point in staying in something where you're miserable, the other person's miserable, but we're just pretending that everything's okay, even though it could get to being passive aggressive to aggressive. She said she yelled at him on the phone call because he's not paying attention to her. So obviously there's something up. So that's how I would treat it and say, we got to separate if you're not going to talk. Or talk and then go from there. So that's how I would treat that. Okay, going on to the next question here. Let's see. All right, so next question. This one is also a long one, so I do apologize, guys. But I like to just read whatever question that I see on here just to be respectful to everyone and every situation. So this next one is called being harassed by someone with a mental disability at work. I work at a franchise sports bar as a bar back, and I'm not sure what that says, and have been having trouble with one of the bus boys. My job requires me to bring liquor into the bar, take out garbage, bus tubs of dishes and put them through the dishwasher, etc. So I am all over this restaurant for my 10-hour shift every Friday and Saturday night. Okay, so it's only 2 days a week. Okay. When I first started working at this restaurant, I noticed that the one busboy, let's call him Chris, who was 25 years old, was a little odd. I befriended him and would joke back and forth, nothing more than your common colleague friendship. I later found out through one of the dishwashers that he was on the spectrum and has mild autism. Ever since I found this out, I have been filtering what I've been saying to him and keeping our conversations minimal because he is known to freak out. Everything has been fine for the 5 months I've been working here up until the last 2 weeks. Chris started to pester me in a very minimal, easily ignorable ways, such as saying weird things to me that doesn't make sense. Out of nowhere, he will approach you and ask creepily weird questions. He asked me and the other waitresses the other night if he, in quote, looks like the kind of guy who would have sex with his own sister, which I said no. As soon as he started saying these creepy, odd things to me, I have pretty much ignored or avoided all contact with him. Chris also says very raunchy things to the waitresses and hits on them all night, despite he is married with a kid. His wife and kid both are also on the spectrum. Last night he began my 10-hour shift with spraying me in the face with a bottle of Windex, laughing and running away. My boss, let's call him Mark, saw this happen and just asked if I was all right and didn't say anything to Chris, My boss doesn't know how to deal with Chris's disability, so he really haven't done anything about his actions. Chris then proceeded to dump a bus bucket full of mixed drinks and beer onto my lower back and shoes, soaking them. This was the last straw for me, so I yelled at him, "Knock it off," and how it's not funny because he was laughing the whole time. I then spent the remaining 5 hours of my shift with soaking wet socks and shoes. I really need advice on how to deal with this kid. He is 25 years old, so to me, he should know better, but I have never had to work alongside someone with this kind of mental disability. Any advice is appreciated. P.S. I haven't yet gone to my boss because I want to see if I can de-escalate the situation without going straight to the person in charge. Okay, well, you're definitely doing better than how I would have handled that. I don't know what it is about me lately, but I've noticed, like I was just thinking this in the car when I was going to get my dinner an hour ago, that I'm becoming more easily irritable and more annoyed quick. Like I'm getting more annoyed quicker than I normally am. Like I'm getting more angry, but like kind of just snapping at little things. I've only noticed this within the last couple of days. I'm personally not, I don't know why, but anyways, you were very professional in handling the situation, but here's the thing, because of his mental disability, you could get into a lot of trouble if you strike him. So, to me, I probably just would have started hitting him. I probably would have used my fists in that, or I would have start screaming in his face, because I just, as of now, within the last couple of days, I'm really lacking patience. I believe it's most likely because of my job. I have a stressful job in the medical field. But anyways, back to what this person is asking. You're an incredibly patient person. Like, you have the patience of a saint. So this is what I would suggest for you to do, or for anyone who's in this kind of situation, to just quit the job, to move on. You could talk to your boss about it, but it already seems like your boss is very passive, which is definitely not a good thing, especially if you're running a business that's really, it's just him being very disrespectful to the other employees that are working hard. Just because the person has a mental disability doesn't give them a license to do whatever they want. They still have to act in the perimeters. So, but doing those things is, even if the person has autism, is still incredibly immature and not to be dealt with either. So, but because of the fact that he's on the spectrum, I would say to just go ahead and quit. Not quit, but put in applications every night or whenever you have time during the week until you get another job. And then you just tell your boss, I'm going to go ahead and put in my 2 weeks, but if he does one more thing to me, I'm just walking out, and I still expect to be paid for those 2 weeks because it wasn't my fault. As to basically you just, by being passive with this particular employee, you're forcing my hand. So, and then given your 2 weeks, and if something happens, just take your stuff off, go change, and then, like, if he tries to dump a bucket of water or whatever on you, and just walk out and quit and never talk to this person, this mentally challenged person, ever again, and just go to a different job. I mean, that's your hands being forced. So there's really nothing you can do. But I do admire the fact that the person who wrote this is incredibly patient, and just seems like the person's really like on the ball and is just trying to do a hard day's, labor kind of thing. And it just, it's just not good that, you're in this situation, but that's what you should do, to just leave. There's no point. So, not even trying to talk to the person, because if the person is already mentally unstable, they're not going to, it's just, you have to understand, with normal people and people on the spectrum and whomever, most people don't change. So they're always going to be this way. I work with a guy who's like 12 years older than me, who still acts immature, kind of in the same way as that, but just not as extreme as the level of disrespect. People don't change. Jesus is the only one that changes a person, but then I've noticed that later on, after the years, a person just goes back to their personality of what they had before. They're just sort of Christian. that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to be right back for the next half of the show. All right, guys, this is Pastor Sean. Welcome back, and let's go ahead and get to the next question. Okay. I've started just leaving my bachelor's off my resume. I do this so nobody asks me about it or expects me to know anything. My brother thinks I'm an idiot and could be 100,000 K or whatever. I have a degree in computer science. I ain't code. I don't know networks. I don't know IT. I don't know anything associated with the degree. This is not imposter syndrome. This thread goes smoothly if you take what I say 100% as fact. I've tried for 4 years with being personally mentored by very patient, good PhDs. It doesn't click. What should I do? How do I get a job? Yeah, I've actually read about this before. Where no, I knew someone that had that. Yeah, this was a friend that I used to have. I used to work with her at this place called AFNI, which is a call center where I sold Verizon products. And then we got reacquainted, and she said that she had that problem because she took 3 years of Spanish, and then she took 1 semester in community college of Spanish, but she didn't know how to speak any Spanish. Like, she was able to pass the tests and do everything she needed to do to get the grade, but she didn't learn anything. And so it was like there was no point in taking that, and that's what I think this is what this guy has, or this woman. So, well, what you should do is, if you're looking for a job, I think you're just going to have to just get a regular, like, odd job, or go down to a temp agency to get whatever job that the place is going to give you, unfortunately. Because if you're not able to do the job of computer science, with a bachelor degree, it's kind of like you just bought a paperweight with the degree diploma. So so if I was in your situation, what I would do is stop putting that on my resume and just erase it. Erase it from the resume, and then don't put it on the application. I was trying to think of that word, application. So that's what I would personally do, and then just do a regular job. And unfortunately, if you have student loan debt, I do apologize. And what I would suggest is to write out a budget where you say, okay, I'm going to put down $200 a month from a month's worth of paychecks, and that's going to go towards my student loan, and then do that for 3 to 5 years until your student loan is paid. If you have student loan, you didn't specify, but just do a regular job. And what I would also do is if I was in your situation, I would start praying and make a prayer list and start asking Jesus on a daily or nightly basis what your calling is supposed to be here in life. Because to get a bachelor's degree in computer science, I don't know how many years of college that is. I'm assuming 2, but so I would start praying for that, to know what it is you're supposed to do in this life, instead of just being forlorn and wayward about this. So, sorry that happened to you. It's pretty crummy. But if you literally just cannot remember doing it, then you're not able to do it. So, do apologize about that, but you're just going to have to take the rough route, unfortunately. Okay, so next one I'm going to read here. How to proceed, what is a mature thing to do? I recently lost a parent. Along with few friends, I was told was someone I've known over 10 years. We've done things together, had a good relationship. I've sought her advice several times, gave my name as a reference for some loan she wanted to take, wanted some other help, which I gave, etc. She never responded to my message. I knew she'd seen it. After 6 weeks, I thought I'd check with her, but in case there was a tech glitch, I had called her with her mother. When her mother passed away, she said she had seen my message. Sorry, but she was busy and someone in her extended family was ill. But she had been posting every other day on social media and about her son's achievements, her various hobbies, her creativity, etc. I feel rather crushed and foolish. I didn't even count for a reply saying, I'm sorry, I'll call you later. What is the mature thing to do? I don't think I want to be as friendly as earlier. My brother-in-law and his wife hadn't called me directly either. They sent my husband a formed text message saying condolences. I don't keep in touch with them. They live abroad, but I did take the trouble to call when their children was born and have hosted them in my house whenever they visit, even as recently as 3 months ago. I keep thinking I should behave the same way, but I feel guilty and disgusted at myself to even think of this sort of revenge, but I don't want to let them think they are important the next time around. In all probability, it will only end up in a fight with my husband. Am I right to feel this way about wanting to be acknowledged, or is it just a case of big ego, low self-esteem? No, it's not ego or low self. I mean, it's a possibility it could be low self-esteem. I'm not really sure. What you should do for this situation, you should cut these people off. Jordan Peterson actually has a video that I watched recently, like one of those quick bite-sized philosophy videos, talking about, and he also has information on a chapter in his book of 12 Rules for Life that my friend actually just bought for me for Christmas, that don't spend time with people who don't have your best intentions in mind. So if obviously the person is not thinking about you, speaking to the person who wrote the post, when they're talking about this, the person's talking about her son's achievements and other things like that on social media, and then ignoring you, but then still trying to be polite about it. Just because the person is being polite doesn't mean you're being either manipulated or emotionally abused. That's what I've come to learn. So what you should do is tell the person that you need to that unfortunately do what I did, which was one of the things I did for, actually really the only thing I did. No, there was two things I did for my New Year's resolution for this year of 2019, is to start cutting women out that I made as friends that didn't want to be with me, or there was something that happened where we couldn't be together, which I'm sure about half of this was my fault. I'm sure. I've always struggled to be in relationships and to trust women. It's been pretty difficult to sustain a relationship, but what I would do is just tell the person, text them, just say, look, you don't have my best interests in mind, and I've been pretty nice to you, but it just doesn't really seem like I'm getting that same affection from you that I give to you. So I think we should just call this even and just not talk anymore or be friends. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to block you on Facebook and Instagram or delete your phone number and things like that. Not for any ill will or bad intentions to hurt your feelings, not to be wicked or anything. It's just you put me on the shelf is how I feel. Not really sure if you're going to fix it or not. So I think we should just take separate paths. Like basically what I did with 3 women that used to be my friends. So where I was getting that from them. So Jesus talks about I don't know if this is what it means for this particular situation, but the verse that comes to mind is, don't throw your pearls before swine because they'll eat the pearls, turn around and attack you. I don't know if it really means this, but it's kind of like maybe a rough translation kind of thing. So, I mean, it's a possibility. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what you should do for this situation. If they don't have your best interest, and it looks like they don't from what I just read, go ahead and cut them out. You need friends that are good friends that have, they got your back. They really care about you. You need people like that. So just cut the toxic people out. You don't have time. So, okay, next one here. Not really sure. Okay. Is cuddling / spooning all that it's hyped up to be? Or is it not? Well, it depends. It depends on your personality type. If you're a person who likes to be affectionate. because I don't think most people like that. I would assume. I'm not really sure. I never really thought about this before. If you want to do it, I would suggest to go ahead and try it for a couple weeks with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, when you're going to sleep. I liked it at first in my previous relationship, but then I didn't because then my arm would fall asleep. So the whole cuddling and spooning thing, it's kind of a young man's game. It's for young romanticism to want to do those things and to be super connected with the person that you're with, that you want to hold them all night and be romantic. So, I mean, even with newly married couples, like when you're in the honeymoon period for the first 6 months of the relationship or the marriage, it really depends on, it's just your personal preference, really. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I'm not really sure if it matters all that much. But because I haven't done it in such a long time, but I don't really miss it either. But that's just me personally. I think just go ahead and try it with your boyfriend or girlfriend. If you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. So really don't know what else to say about that. But all right, let's get to the next one here. So this one's a short one. I got rejected from my dream university. Okay. I applied to Oxford. I did well enough to get an interview for my course, Economics and Management. Only 25% get an interview, excuse me. I messed up with my interview, made loads of uncharacteristic errors, and found out that I got rejected a few days ago. Since then, I've become completely disenchanted with schoolwork. I have no motivation to study for my final exams at the end of the year and have no real desire to go to another university. What kept me motivated until this point was a dream of going to Oxford. Now I feel lost. Any advice on how to get out of the slump? Well, I mean, if that was your primary motivation, there's really no way to get out of the slump, unfortunately. What you should do is just aim for a different college. To me, I don't really like college. My best friend is in college now, and it just seems like it's nothing but a hassle and a headache to get the doctorate that he's looking for to become a surgeon. It's just, especially here in Arizona, it's really bad. Like, it's really, really bad. I'm not saying as bad as like San Francisco or Portland or New York, but it seems like he's just always angry, and he always has a headache dealing with anything with school. It's just, and the primary reason is to get, I'm assuming, prestige, power, and money. That's what I'm assuming why people go to college. But I really did not like college. I hated it. To be completely honest with you, I hated it. I hated going. I love educating myself. I mean, when I was talking about the hobbies before, I love watching during the week when I can Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Jeopardy. And I love to take information from those shows, and I'll read entire articles on Wikipedia and other websites that I'll find on subjects. And I read books a lot, and like complicated books on psychology and whatnot, and on the Bible and theology, all that kind of stuff. So, but I hate school. I've always hated school. What you should do is you should aim for a different university or go to community college and still get your degree. Just because it's not Oxford doesn't mean you still can't get a good experience and still do what it is you would like to do as to why you were trying to go to Oxford. To me, all college is the same. It's just all the same frustration. So I'm probably not the best person to give you advice on this because I've had such a bad experience, but I would say just aim for something else, even if it's a community college, and you can save some money. So, because the point is just to get to the degree so you can do your dream job. That's the point of it, not the fact that you graduated from a specific school. So just pick a different school. And then I'm not sure if the motivation is going to come back or not. I'll be right back. All right, guys. So this is the last part of the video, the last 15 minutes for January's Q&A advice forum. So let's go ahead and read another one. Okay. Okay, this one's a short one. Okay. I was supposed to get married to my boyfriend last April, but he backed out 2 weeks prior because he said he didn't think it would work with my 14-year-old son. I was trying to restart my life elsewhere, but was unsuccessful. Fast forward, we have all been living together for almost 6 months with no marriage in sight. We've been together 3 years, and I don't want to wake up after 5 years and still be introducing him as my ex-fiance. I shouldn't have to relocate to the other side of the planet for his light bulb to go off. Well, it's a possibility that he's not getting what he wants out of the relationship, and you're waiting for him. He did back out 2 weeks prior. He said he didn't think it would work with my 14-year-old son. Jesse Lee Peterson actually addressed that in a Q&A video that he did on his channel, The Fallen State, where it's not something that I necessarily agree with, but he said that it's just going to be problems when a man dates a woman with kids from previous fathers, or vice versa, when a woman gets into a relationship with a man who has kids from a previous wife or relationship with a girlfriend. So, because you're not the biological father or mother, you are the one that's kind of being pushed to the side because you're not really in the family. So, again, I can't believe I'm relating to so much of this, but this happened to me a couple times. Even with the woman I was just talking about as to when she said she couldn't get over her ex, she had 2 kids with 2 previous fathers. So, speaking from the man's perspective, you're always on the outside. You're not the dad biologically. You're the stepdad. Like, you're not really a part of the family. And in God's hierarchy as to how the household's supposed to work is the man is the leader of the house. Then it goes, the woman's the leader of the kids. So Jesus Christ is the head of the house over the man. The man's the head of the wife is the head of the kids. So that's the order as to how a household's supposed to work. For it to be a good household and not a broken one, which is most of everyone I know. But really the only thing to do at this point, because he won't accept your son, is you have to move on. That's unfortunately, you have to cut it off with him because it's been too long. It's been too many years and he doesn't want to make a decision, but he doesn't want to leave you either. So you have to cut it off. Like what I did with every woman I've been with for what reason or another. So that's what I would say. Like what I said about the last person, send them a text saying, hey, I need to talk to you. Please come home, or whatever, when you're off of work, or whenever you have free time. Do not involve the teenager, and tell the person, because you're not willing to marry me, I'm going to have to leave. It's either you leave this house and move out, or I take my son and I leave and I go somewhere else, and then I don't want to have any more connection with you anymore. I have to move on with my life. That's how I would treat that situation. So unfortunately, you have to cut them off. But you have to also keep into consideration in the future when you're dating men, when you're looking for a new relationship, that it's pretty much just going to be, it's just not going to be good until this kid leaves and he goes to college or he moves out, and then he's not under your supervision, like when he turns 18, for example. So you have to keep that in mind, because it's going to be a burden on the man. Usually after the honeymoon period of 6 months, it's going to start to become a burden. So on the man
or vice versa on the woman because of the kid that has a different father or mother.
So it would just be kind of better actually if you just waited until he left and you guys, instead of him being your son, it's your friend. So then the relationship would actually work much better once you find your next man. So I hope that helps. Okay, next one here. I'm a 25-year-old male. I'm on my third stable relationship. On all of them, my girlfriend has been on the pill, so I get to do it raw, but every single time I've had sex with them, I spent the following week being spooked of her pregnant, even though I know we had a protection more reliable than condoms. How do I get over it? How would you get over that fear? Well, unfortunately, to be blunt again, you're not supposed to have sex before marriage. I've done this myself a couple times and regret doing it, but what it states in the Bible is that it's a marriage between a man and a woman, and afterwards it's the sex bringing you guys both together. So the thing is, I mean, the whole thing is about you getting scared about her becoming pregnant. So the guy who wrote this wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. So I'm sorry if I'm being disrespectful here, but it shouldn't be what you're thinking on of how do you use more protection when you want to have sex without using a condom where she's on birth control, but of the fact that you should be focusing on the fact that you're not supposed to be having sex outside of marriage. Let's say you do want to get married to her and you propose, and then you two become one after the wedding. Then you can talk about the fact that you would have to just use condoms. I do work with someone who is on birth control, and there was less than a 1% chance that she was going to get pregnant, and she ended up getting pregnant and had twins, even though both her and the husband were using protection. It's all part of God's plan in the end. So it's something that you shouldn't even be having sex. So until you're ready to commit to this woman or to whatever, I think you said you were on the third stable relationship. So that's what I would say. Use condoms, use protection once you do. But if it happens and you become a father, that's just, it was a part of God's plan for you to be a father. So that's really it with that. That's really all I don't really know what else to say about that. So, okay, so for the next one here, this one's really long, so I'm going to go ahead and make this one the last question. I'm curious about what I should do here. I have a new 9-month now since moving here, doctor. 9 months, doctor. He is flat out fantastic. 4 years of living with heart problems, and he was the first to not brush me off and insist that the problem be solved, which it was. He is kind. He's amazing. Beside the manner, listens, takes his time. The problem is his staff. I have a medication that has to be called in each time. He cannot... Oh, sorry. Set this, stop that there. Oh, no, go back. Sorry about that. How do I get back to... Okay, here it is. Okay, so the first time I was due for a fill, I had a paper RX, but it expired since I left town for an emergency and didn't fill it in time. I was totally out of my medication the day I got back. Not taking his medication suddenly can make you feel awful. I called and asked for it to be called in and explained I was so sorry as it was on my end, but I wasn't able to get it filled, and it would be so helpful if it got filled quickly. They asked for 3 days. Sure, no problem. Everything was fine. A few days later, I call and they say they are waiting for the doctor to sign off, etc. 2 weeks total, many calls. Me being nice, always being transferred to voicemail. No one returning my calls. I finally called and got firm, not rude, and said, please don't transfer me to voicemail. No one is calling me back, and I'm physically ill without my medication. I really need this to be resolved. I was standing in front of the pharmacist. She said, oh, she just talked to him. He was pissed she did not. He was the only one there. Amazingly, 2 minutes later, the RX was there, so the medication was there. Next refill, I call in. Well, before a pharmacy sends them request, it was denied. I called them. I thought it may be an issue since pharmacy accidentally sent it under the maiden name. No call back for 2 weeks. Finally, he calls them a bit frustrated, and it appears okay, I'm just going to skip to the last paragraph here. I get the point. I grew up in a pharmacy. My mom was a pharmacist and worked almost 10 years in a multi-doctor practice. I know how these things work better than most, and I really went out of my way to adhere to their desires for refill, be kind, give to them, etc. I finally, last call, said I clearly just needed an appointment with my doctor to get the actual RX, and she fought me on it. She finally gave me an appointment for February, and I was going to chat with my doctor about it, but heck, maybe once I did do that, if he says something to them, I am considered more of a problem patient. What to do? Well, I can actually, I've actually worked for Walgreens before for about 2 months, so not too long, as the pharmacy technician. So being that there are so many orders to fill, it's just, these things actually happen pretty frequently, and I was taking calls from all around the country. So not to say that I'm defending their actions, it's just that it's kind of like in the medical field that I've been in for over a year now. It's getting to the point where I'm getting so impatient with people, I'm starting to not care about them when they're in pain or asking for things, because everybody's asking for things. Everybody needs something to be done. Everybody wants it in the time manner that they see fit. It just gets old. So you just kind of stop caring, and you start getting angry about the fact that they're not taking how you feel into consideration, being that I was literally taking calls every 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes calls every 2 minutes, where every 4 calls I was taking, maybe roughly every 4 and 5 calls, a person was really rude because their order got screwed up for some kind of reason. So that's not the patient's fault. It's a faulty system. But what you should do is that you should explain to your doctor once you go in February, so next month, I would talk to the doctor once I go in and say, you need to hire competent workers here because they are completely incompetent, and I have been forced to be rude to them when I didn't want to be, and I'm trying to be nice, and I know what I'm doing because I've done it myself. My mother was a pharmacist, from what you said. So if they don't, even though they've been doing it, and I'm actually talking to myself now, you still need to show common courtesy. You still need to humble yourself before you go to work, and you still need to be nice to the patients and try the very best you can when you're at work. You still need to kill it when you're at work. You need to try to do a great job, even if you hate the fact that you're working there, or as to whatever it is that's going on in these people's lives that are the doctor's assistants that have been so rude to you and don't want to help you. Tell him that he needs to fire them and hire a new staff, or you're just going to go somewhere else. You need to put your foot down. Stop being agreeable with the staff, and just tell him straight up when you're there in February, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go somewhere else to get my medication, but I don't want to because you do such a great job. It's just your staff is they're just really bad at what they do, and they're very impatient with me when they should be patient. So do that. Do not be agreeable, and just put your foot down and tell them this is what's going to happen. If you don't fit on, give them a timeline. Say a month, for example. Give them 30 days. If things don't start changing, then you're going to leave, and that you're going to go to a different doctor that has a competent work staff. So, I mean, the work staff that I have are very, very competent, hardworking people. So it's not just, and don't get it in your mind that this is only happening to you. So that there are really good doctors, there's really good companies out there that can fill your medications and whatnot that are really good at what they do, that care about their job and care about the employees and the patients. So that's what I would do. Thank you guys for listening. Excuse me. I'm sorry that I had to be so blunt with a lot of these questions, because usually I'm not like this. More try to just be understanding of both sides of
what's going on both sides of the argument, so that try to do the best I can for everyone to benefit. So I do apologize about that, but that's just how I felt about most of the questions. So thank you guys once again. This is Pastor Sean with Death Church Podcast, and thank you. God bless.